Enterprise Management 360.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Tech Chat. So today I'm joined by Christy Wyatt, the CEO of Absolute Software, and we're going to be discussing recent data breaches and the lessons learned from the finds. So first of all, just thank you so much for joining us today. So it seems like we're not seeing a decrease in major data breaches. I saw some research recently that shows just 28% of companies are GDPR compliant a year on. So what factors are holding organizations back from being compliant?
So first of all, I don't think you're going to see a decrease in the number of breaches. I think some of the interesting stats we've seen have been, increasingly the valuable assets within a company, more than 80% are actually in intangible assets, not physical assets, which has completely changed the landscape of what is of value within an enterprise. I think the challenge for a lot of companies that are trying to respond to this is just simply the complexity. We put out a piece of research a couple of months ago where we looked across about 8.5 million endpoint devices, and we realized that the average PC in the enterprise today has about 10 security controls installed on them. So if you think about how you protect data, how you look at data, how you protect privacy, each one of these devices now has a very complex technology stack. It's a very fragile technology stack. And so, the answer is not always going to be more security. It's going to be how do we build resilience more deeper into that stack and into the enterprise's response. So it's not just about protecting your data, it's actually looking at the broader ecosystem of technology that's sitting on that device.
So large organizations are being hit hard, such as BA, Facebook, and Equifax, just to name a few there. But what lessons can other organizations learn from previous mistakes?
I think that as we look at the industry's response to kind of the current environment, there's protecting and mitigating risk, and then there's response to risk. I think resilience is a big part of our conversation because we think they're equally important. I think we've spent a decade investing billions and billions of dollars into tech and into security. And what we're finding is that, an interesting piece of data is that 70% of all breaches actually happen for a vulnerability you already knew how to fix. So it is inevitable that you're going to be compromised. How you respond to it is as important as how you tried to mitigate it in the first place. And I think that that's true in data breaches as well as in protecting the privacy of the end user. You have to be thinking at a board level and you have to be thinking across the management team. It's not just IT's responsibility. You need to be running drills. Increasingly, we need to think about cyber risk the same way we think about financial risk. There's a robust framework that we think about from top to bottom of an organization, and you practice.
And finally here, GDPR has been in place for over a year now, as we mentioned at the beginning. CCPA comes into effect in January. So what can we expect for the future when it comes to handling data breaches?
So first of all, that landscape is going to continue to shift. I think GDPR was a significant milestone for us as an industry, but what we're going to see from this point forward is fragmentation. Right? I think now what we're seeing in the US, you're going to see different regulatory standards emerge country by country, state by state, even industry by industry. So I think that's going to drive a lot of additional complexity, both across the industry as well as within any global enterprise who's trying to think about how to operate a business across that landscape. I think having a really good control on where your assets are, what data is sitting on those assets, and looking at that technology stack, making sure that the things that you've invested in are actually working and that are actually continuing to protect and enforce compliance against those frameworks is going to be increasingly important.
Well, thank you so much for your insight today. It's been great talking to you, and I'm interested to see where it goes in the future. Hopefully people can make note of what we spoke about today and we can start to shrink those data breaches down.
Thank you for having me.
So that's a wrap on this week's Tech Chat. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to Christy for taking the time to talk to me as well. Now, if you're interested in generating leads for your business, make sure you head on over to the Tell Us Your Audience page. There we can generate your content across North America, APAC and Europe, and then generate SQLs and MQLs right back to you. That's all for this week, so make sure you go to em360tech.com for more great content. Also head on over to Twitter and LinkedIn to find out what's going on. Or alternatively, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel.